It is 6:08 and we're beginning the meeting. So let's begin with a roll call. In alphabetical order, just to make it easier. Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Doss,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Here.
How do you prefer to be called?
Ravi.
Commissioner Ravi and Commissioner Barza.
Here.
Right, all are present. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So we will be having a presentation on the local scout. He is not here yet.
I think he was by.
Oh. I was gonna say while we wait, if we could approve minutes.
I'll just sit there. Okay. Okay, still waiting for people to run.
Okay.
Why is it not sharing my screen? Because I'm not working. Well, I made a joke that with me taking over, there'd be less technical issues. And we're all gonna lie to him and say I did great.
That's never true.
All right, so I'm gonna scroll through the minutes. The last meeting. And. I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
Sure. I move to approve the minutes of the.
Okay.
Meeting.
Seconded.
All right. And if we could do a vote, so, Commissioner Major.
I abstained because I wasn't there, even though I read the minutes.
All right, Commissioner Dodd,
I approve.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowley,
Abstain.
and abstain or yes,
Abstain.
abstain?
Yeah.
And Vice Chair.
Yes.
All right, so we pass with yeses and 2 abstains. While we wait for the scout, I would like to propose that we move the election to go before then. If I could have a motion.
I'm very active today. Had 2 cups of before I came in. And you know that. So I propose Commissioner Das as the chair.
Well, so first we need to have a motion and a vote to
Okay.
the agenda.
So I move the agenda so we can do the election right now.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then vote yes,
And
no.
I propose Commissioner Das as the chair.
So we gotta do the vote first.
Oh, again.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
Yes.
Commissioner Das,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Rowley.
Yes.
Okay, so, you may not nominate yourself, but you may vote for yourself. If anyone would like to make a nomination.
I shall speak down. All right, so I repeat the 3rd time. So I do really want him to be chair.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Bodro.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Yeah, I nominate myself. I support, Shashi support.
No, I think we've.
All right. Would the 2 of you like to accept your nominations?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to take a minute to introduce yourselves? Explain to the commission why you think.
Yes. I'm in the commission for last 1 year, and the safety and security is something I'm extremely passionate about. In my work also, I am in the safety and security team. And for a number of years, in fact, I just came from another meeting from the work on the same topic. So, you can see that is my badge, okay. And I feel that, being the commission chair, I can bring in the agenda in the meeting, and that is the right topic, and those can help on the core issues of the Cupertino residents. That is basically the safety of the citizens, a lot of burglary, talking about, and some of those, issues we can attack. And also the fire is another issue that I'm very, very passionate about, so that we can really, really take preventive action on that, especially in the context of what happened in California this year, also in the Southern California. That's why I think I can help a lot more constructively being the commission chair.
Vice Chair, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm Siddharth, been the vice chair this past year essentially, which was my also first year on the commission. In addition to Public Safety Commission, I've been a part of the Cupertino Citizen Corps for like a little more than half of my life. So like specifically in the amateur radio emergency service part of CARES. So in some capacity, I try to be involved with the city at least once a month. Like we had the Big Bunny 5K recently, so involved with that. Back when we used to have the July 4th fireworks, always took great pride in kind of being involved there as well. So yeah, safety is like a big part of what I think is important for Cupertino and like society as a whole, which is why I joined the commission. I think being the chair would be a great honor, representing this awesome body, this meeting, helping with the agenda and so forth. So yeah, it's my elevator pitch. Yeah.
All right, are we ready to vote? Yes. We're gonna do hands up out. So votes for Vice Chair Siddharth. 2, and votes for Commissioner Das. 3. All right, so congratulations, Das. You two mind switching places?
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Really?
You have to take your little.
So to
Yeah.
take this also.
Yes.
So,
So
all right. And if you would, or we can repeat the same process and we'll elect a vice chair, or we can keep Vice Chair Siddharth as the second place. To name him as vice chair once again. So for the same process.
So we need a motion. Siddharth as vice chair?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Someone like to second that?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, all right. So motion to keep Vice Chair Siddharth in his current position. Commissioner Baker, how do you vote?
Just no.
Okay, Commissioner,
Yeah.
okay, Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Ravi? Commissioner Dubs? Yes, okay, so that is 3 yeses and 2 nos. The motion passes and you will retain your position.
So now you have to look there alone.
We'll do that next time. So thank you both very much. Congratulations. As a reminder, as the chair, you will be attending the mayor's meeting, so I will send you the link and we can discuss what bullet points you're gonna think here. Sarah, you wanna take a second and then we can get started? Right, we do not have members of the public who wish to speak, or do? Right. No, okay. Written communications, we did receive 1 email. This was from resident. You should have all received this in your inboxes, to your commission email. Does anyone have any questions about Jason's email? I will say just one, tiny note, we do not have a Cupertino police force. We have our contract with the sheriff's office. I know there were questions in the past about, introducing Cupertino police. That was, decided not to be the most fiscally effective decision, so. It says police. Should be sheriff's.
I have a question.
Mhm.
As a commissioner, I could respond to this email, but will this, I guess my question to you is like, will the city formally respond? Jay, or? Yeah, with the expectation, respond individually, bring this to discussion during the meeting. I mean, I could invite him to attend a future meeting to talk about this, but I'm just curious if he would also be getting some official response that I might not have seen.
So I would either have Captain Valenzuela, if you would prefer to answer the.
Mhm.
I cannot
Okay.
answer them as
Sure.
in depth.
My area, but I did not receive this email, by the way, just so,
Oh, for this.
Okay.
but yeah, I could, do you need to answer them right now, or? I can take time to write a response, okay.
I was just curious what the typical procedure is, like, I don't know.
They've actually, this person has actually emailed me in the past. I'm surprised they didn't include or send me any email about this stuff, but I get emails from residents all the time, either from the city manager or from anybody requesting or even a public presentation, like neighborhood watch, which I are to drown, and we can organize neighborhood watch meeting. If there's already one in place, we can either, I'll go out or my assistant division commander, somebody will go out to the community and answer these questions in person, or I can respond by email, whichever one they want.
Okay, thanks.
If you would like, when we get to future agenda setting, we can discuss if we would like to invite you to attend the future meeting.
But can we ask question? Like, what would be the general response for this?
Yeah.
Can you please respond? Like,
Yeah, what measures is the police department taking to address burglaries? So we have dedicated an increased patrols when we are getting hit with more burglaries. Usually that's weekends that are associated with like a holiday. People are out of town. We start seeing an increase in patrol check requests from residents. We step up the additional patrols that are dedicated strictly for burglary suppression. We don't call them that, but they respond to alarms or they try to be more visible in neighborhoods. This last weekend or this last area, I'm sure these concerns are coming from where there were 4 burglaries, I believe, in the city of Cupertino. There was also some in Los Altos, unincorporated Los Altos, and in Los Altos Hills. 2 individuals were breaking into a couple houses. Has there been an increase in patrols or surveillance? Yes, we try to do, like I said, targeted enforcement because it does cost the city money every time we put a deputy out in overtime. So we want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible with our resources and put them out when it's more valuable for the city. When we catch a burglar, respond faster to alarms, et cetera. When it comes to surveillance, the city, yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
no problem.
So what is the typical response time? I know you're generalizing for the Santa Clara. What is the
So
Cupertino city?
we will get to that when we get to the sheriff's office.
Yeah, I can talk about response times then. Yeah.
Okay,
Has there been increase in patrols? Yes, and then when it comes to surveillance portion, the Board of Supervisors has approved last Tuesday the installation of, well, you guys, the city of Cupertino has approved the purchase and installation of AOPR cameras. But because we are a county entity, we have permission now from the county to utilize your license plate readers and access the data from the AOPR. So once they're installed, they'll be ready to go, and our deputies they're already trained on how to use them and how to search them and how to look at them. So any arrests made in connection with burglaries and car break-ins in Cupertino, we do publish a weekly report that indicates when we do make an arrest on an individual. We did make an arrest on 3 individuals tied to at least 72 burglaries within Cupertino, San Jose, and Los Gatos. There are about 15, 16 other burglaries that detectives were now trying to tie to those individuals that are in custody. But we do have detectives that are always trying to work hard to make a connection. You have to prove that the person was in the house in order to get a burglary charge. That's always the hard part. DNA, fingerprint, or some other kind of method, like video surveillance of the person going in the house. Is there a dedicated task force, especially going to handle these cases? We have a dedicated task force to address retail crime. And I'm sure if you've seen our social media, They're constantly arresting people, either at TJ Maxx or Target or any of the big stores in Cupertino. They are a dedicated task force specifically for burglary in retail crime stores. We do have a dedicated task of detectives that handle specifically property crimes for the city of Cupertino. We have 4 of them, and they always work together to try to solve crime in Cupertino. Streets with neighborhood watch signs are posted on the streets also being burglarized. What else is left to be done by residents? So when a neighborhood watch gets street signs, it's usually because after they just did the neighborhood watch orientation. As Marta will tell you, the participation could probably be a little better for neighborhood watch meetings and neighborhood watch groups. You get a small group of residents who are concerned, but you have a big block of area that's covered. The importance of neighborhood watch is the neighbors work together into keeping an eye on each other's houses or keeping an eye on each other's areas, reporting suspicious vehicles, suspicious persons, a vehicle driving back and forth with the lights off, a vehicle left running. And those are the kind of things that we ask neighbors, to be vigilant about and give us a call right away so that we can come out and respond to that. And there has been some really good tips, and people have called us when they see suspicious vehicles, and we arrested a couple individuals for breaking into a bunch of cars in Cupertino. But we can't be everywhere at one time, so that's what we ask for: neighborhood watch, neighborhood assistance for the residents to kind of let us know when they see something that's out of place in their neighborhood. So sometimes it's beneficial to bring up a neighborhood watch again. Maybe that's one that's been kind of stagnant for a couple of years, because people move, people leave neighborhoods, and if a resident is adamant about trying to get their neighborhood watch group going again, we can refer them to Marta, and we could definitely have one of our deputies or myself or my assistant division commander go out there and kind of give everybody the overview of what's expected in neighborhood watch. So that's how I was respond. I've obviously give a little more information with my written email, especially with some statistics, but that's how I respond to this right now.
So can I ask more questions or like it has to be later?
I will note that Susanna, do you have homework? So that's a yes. So I'm not saying no, but just
Yeah.
please do keep in mind.
Okay. So thank you very much for the detailed response. So are the 15 LA, what is that, license plate readers are all active or only part of them are active?
So I don't believe they've been installed yet, but it's been a process, because the city has to also, put up some funding. These are not very cheap cameras. I think they're about $3,000 a year per camera, and so they're not cheap. But the city is doing the right thing by doing the same thing like Saratoga is doing. The city of Saratoga only purchased, I think, 7 or 8 cameras, and they're electing to give neighborhoods the power to purchase their own cameras if they want to and link into the system. And so that's a benefit that the city is doing. Once those cameras are installed, they will be able to go live though, because we already have it's been looked at by you guys, by the Public Safety Commission. Has been looked at by the City Council, and the Technology Commission, I think, also looked at it, and now the Board of Supervisors is giving their thumbs up for us to be able to use them.
So are the 15 procured or
Not yet.
not yet? Oh. So whom should we ask for the status?
So once we have the funding and they start being installed, the ALPS.
So it's in the city work program right now, so we're coordinating with the sheriff's office to finalize the agreement. Once that's done, we'll probably implement.
So this has been, discussed last year also. In almost 3 quarters has been discussed. So now still, what is the,
So
when will be operational in final?
So the city work program runs 2 years. And technically, this is a pilot program, so we're in the midst of trying to figure this out. Since the agreement can be in place, there's some logistical arrangement. I don't have a estimation of when this is gonna come alive. We've been working on it.
Mission can help. Why this?
So if any of you is interested, we just had a city work program workshop last Monday with council. That only lasted about 4 hours. So this is how I describe the city council. On the day-to-day, Marta and I have probably about an 85% full plate with just mandates and other things to do. And then there's around about 10% where we can accommodate city work program. And when I say about 20 items, honestly. And then there's 5% to put up fires. So in a sense of 10% of our day-to-day with about 20 projects. In a very long-winded way, that's why it's taking.
And I could add to that as well too, that, you know, it's not with anybody's fault. It's been looked at and moved a lot. And even when it fell on my lap, I had to write the policy. Had to write the ledge file, had to send it to our attorneys had to look at it, their attorneys sent it to the city attorneys to look at it. So it's not like it just takes its process. Once I got the ledge file and the policy and the MOU in place, then I can ask for a calendar on the supervisor's calendar. So it's, fortunately, government sometimes moves a little slow. I'd like it to go faster, but I'm not in charge.
What is the approximate timeline?
At this
Some
point, it's
dates.
really, once they're purchased, they have locations already set up. They're ready to go live as soon as they're purchased because I've already gotten our portion done. So it's really a matter of now the city and Flock kind of getting together. And
The fund is approved.
Council allocated funding, only for the one time, but not for the ongoing maintenance. So we're going back for additional funding for the ongoing maintenance, $60,000 a year.
So from the,
$1,000 a year, 15 cameras.
so from the perspective of
20 cameras, right?
when the first pilot program will be up, there must be some dates that you are shooting for.
We can certainly talk to the sheriff and provide an update to the commission. I don't have that date right now.
yeah, from what I don't want to talk to people who are gone, but when Tom he was saying somewhere around April-ish, mid-April is what he was saying. But again, it's,
Yeah, I don't know that we're behind schedule with this.
yeah, we might be behind.
Well, I'm not sure that we are.
So take this as an agenda item to come back. At next week, next time, next week.
We can certainly provide an information first. And then if there is a need to discussion, certainly put it on as a future agenda item. I mean, I think right now it's with us. And then I know that we all have to deal with some sort of unforeseen challenges with the board, which caused a little bit delay. And then we also had a departure from a very important person. So there's a number of transitioning logistical arrangements. So we can certainly hopefully come back with some sort of information for the next.
That's
meeting.
great. I thought it would take 2 months to get back, but that's fantastic if you come back sooner.
I think it would be beneficial if we can know like what are the steps, like, okay, action items and approximate timeline. We understand you are all busy, right? So, okay, this is the next step, this is the next step, that approximate ETA, right? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
like,
So Pamela and I can work on
Mhm.
getting that out to you. I don't think it's helpful for us to dive very deeply into detail at this particular moment, because like Pamela said, we don't have the details with us and we don't want to misspeak. And then the process.
And Martin, we also had a staff report for council last fall. So we're going to send that to all of the commission if you haven't already seen that. That was on the ALPR when you went to
Yes.
council. Yep, we're going to recirculate with that.
Is that up to date though? If it went in fall, probably.
Well, I guess the other question is, would you rather us work on the report or would you rather us work on the actual ARPR implementation?
what is the report? Sorry, I didn't understand
A
that.
staff report.
Yeah.
Going through what the
The
problem.
updated staff report. I mean, either way, either way is gonna take time, right? So we could work on an updated info memo.
Is that so different or is it just a few dates that
They're
are?
very different, because I mean, if you're asking me from a city manager's perspective, I'd rather work with Marta and Neil to try to get the LPR up and running,
Yeah, that's I think what we want, right?
right? But if you want me to update the staff report from last fall, we can do that, but that's also gonna take Marta's time. I mean, honestly, I will not be working on this, it will be her. So would you rather us work with the sheriff's
think-
office?
I think at this point, because we've discussed this, I mean, for a while, we've been trying to get these cameras on for at least 3-4 years. By the time it became a work program issue, after we following the city issues. So we've been asking TIC to figure out, what cameras they needed. So it's been 4 or 5 years and people are like, when is it happening? So it might be useful to
The
get.
timeline that we had before Tom left was that they would not be installed until April. So we are still within the expected time.
So that's fine. All I'm trying to say is if we are falling approximately April, that's fine. But if it's going to be June, August, it would be nice to get that. It would be nice to get that update, and whatever was in fall is probably still staying in April. So it would not be very useful to get that if it's not going to be that same timeline.
Is it 15 cameras or 20 cameras? Okay.
Right?
So very quickly, right? Captain Neil also mentioned that the city has to allocate funding for additional patrols, right?
No, the city pays the contract monthly to us, so I have to be careful, stay within my budgetary, what I don't want to come back is to
Right.
the city and say, you owe us money for, everything, or we went over. So my job is not only to balance, control the public safety, but balance the budget as well too. So I have to just be cognizant of that and not exceed it, because a deputy on overtime, it's an overtime rate. and
Right.
Pretty expensive for the city, so.
So as a public city, like the commissioners, right, is that something we can recommend to the city council to increase the funding? Not only this, Mr. J, right, we also saw, I mean, I'm communicating, even in my street today, we had some theft. So I mean, lot of citizens are concerned, right? Is it like as a public safety commissioners, can we recommend to the city council, or I don't know, it's presentized or something?
Can discuss in the.
Yeah.
The agenda,
Uh-huh.
because what I just heard, 60K was approved for 1 year. So first is that, that approval extended and then more funding, definitely we should talk about.
Please don't make a mistake about this. We're always within budget with our city contracts, and if there's a concern from residents or there's something that you guys do with the city council or the city manager, I can always put more patrols on the street. That's not a problem. But I also want to be fiscally responsible with our budget. Yeah.
So Captain, you say that the city of Fairfield, has allowed the residents to purchase their own camera and integrate it in the system. That's not.
This was covered in the staff report, that specific
Oh.
thing, so when I send out the staff report, you'll be able to see.
So we are incorporating the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
Thank you.
Any further
Thanks.
questions? Right, Mary, are you ready? Yes. All right.
Patiently waiting.
Yes.
You will. Yep.
Tell her how to do it.
Hey everyone, I'm Savannah. I'm a member of Group 485 and I'm also a Eagle project. So, yeah. So when I was looking for something to do with my Eagle project, I was looking at Cupertino, the community, and I saw the Cupertino Public Safety Forum. There was a lack of youth engagement. I didn't see many teens there. It was mostly talking, aimed towards adults who were willing to sit through all the talking. And also, members were not aware of the resources provided to them, what was accessible to them, and what they could use to improve their safety in the community. So my solution was a public safety fair. So this is different because there is more community preparedness as we are bringing the whole community together. And there's also increased public engagement through promotion to the youth, to the families, to PPSA. And again, involvement is major things that I'm focusing on. And additionally, I want to leave behind a future event blueprint so that people can lead it on. For example, the teen commission, someone else can take on this project and lead it on the next year and the year after that, to make it a recurring event. So it's to the general public, it's going to be a fair where organizations such as the county sheriff's office, the fire department, school club, safe route to school, have a little fun fair where they can educate the public. It's going to be on March 22nd, which is on the second Saturday from 12 to 4 p.m. Our major concerns right now are weather, but it's looking pretty good as it's really cloudy, and it's going to be held right outside of.
And if it rains, we're gonna be using community hall.
So what makes it different from what it was like before? Well, this one focuses on a more integrated approach, meaning there's more hands-on activities, there's booths, we're handing out small chat keys, giving out raffle tickets, and it's also a broader focus as we're gonna include education, school clubs. I've invited safe routes to school, all these PG&E, scouting clubs, and more youth involvement, and it's also sustainable in the future. So if you guys can just take a look at this, these are the project phases I've gone through: project planning, team recruitment, fundraising, and community outreach. Logistics, preparation, promotions, event execution, and reporting and feedback. So currently, I'm on the road to finding 25 to 30 volunteers, working with section managers, general volunteers, promotional team, and support staff. We're looking at a number of, I think, 15 volunteers right now, but I've also uploaded it to our school service clubs. And I'm hoping for another 10 or 20. So yeah, if you guys have any people you would like to recommend, please contact me and yeah. Target attendees, children, young adults, and parents. I have already promoted these to everyone. Children, I've released them to our local elementary schools. Young adults, I've released it on social media, my personal Instagram. And for parents, we have Facebook, Nextdoor, Twitter, and all the parent groups. So here's just a general map of where the booths are gonna be. I'll give you guys maybe like 10-15 seconds to look at it. And the one highlighted in blue, 3, 4, 5, and performance will require electricity. These are the costs. I'm expecting around $500 of budget, maybe 400, but I've already received around $200, and I'm looking for more donations right now. If you take a look at the whole budget plan, most of our funds will go towards food. So it's gonna be snacks and refreshments and foods provided for volunteers, drinks, and we're also gonna use the other 40% for lanyards to differentiate the volunteers, and also face paint for the Artifact for Kids Club, and just all of the other costs that we don't really look at, such as the raffle too. This was the project timeline. However, we did run into some trouble due to Mr. Tom Chin having to leave. So it was a bit rough, but it's totally on track and it's going very well.
We all feel it better, don't worry.
So. And skip to the next slide. Thank you so much. Do you guys have any questions you would like to add or clarify?
So how do we contribute to your fundraising?
Well, you can always Zelle, Venmo, Apple Pay.
Okay, good.
That number
Right away.
there, if you guys are interested, but
Okay.
you guys can really help support by just getting everyone you know to pull up and show up, because your participation and attendance will mean a lot. Any other questions?
If I were you, I would strongly urge your commissioners to participate, their presence on that day, to support you.
Which event or element you're most excited about from the fair? Is there like a certain activity or something that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I actually invited a big club called Artifact for Kids, and they're gonna be pulling out with some face paint. So I'm really excited to see how the kids will enjoy that. And I just wanna see a lot of attendance and people have.
If I could get a motion to accept the report?
Always very good motion. I accept the report.
All right,
Second.
and so vote,
Yes.
Mr. Resmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes. Yes.
And Commissioner Gosh? Yes. All right, 5-5, no nos, no abstention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope to see you guys there.
This too.
Yes, send me an email.
You're gonna have a part of it? You're gonna. I'm trying to get a bear cat out there.
Up next, we have a report about the Sheriff's Teen Academy. There's the plot.
The Sheriff's Teen Academy is getting set up and gonna be happening 19th to 18th. You know, we pitch it to a lot of the schools here and locally, and we also pitch it to all the other schools nearby, making it open for everybody. We do have a couple videos on YouTube if you're interested in some of the activities that may take place, but we show them a lot of the stuff that we do. Courtroom, the main jail, use some CSI stuff, you know, picking up latent fingerprints, some first aid stuff that we cover with them. Just give them a glimpse of we're not necessarily just trying to say, oh, this is what police officers do, but it's more of a what law in general does, where it comes through their dispatchers, our jail system, our attorneys, and just give the kids a glimpse of something. We've had really good success over the years, and we always have people say, you know, I want to be an attorney, or I want to be a police officer or a firefighter or something. We just want to make sure that we expose our teens to our public safety areas. And so, again, if we'll push it out to social media at some point in time. We're getting already some people, interested applicants. Our school resource officers are out there, you know, letting our schools know in Cupertino to apply, making our high school students and pushing that out there. So, yeah, it's a great program. Like I said, we have videos on YouTube if you want to take a look at some of the stuff that they do. They do like a little video montage of everything, and then we give them a certificate at the end of everything. So, yeah, any questions about it?
Yeah, how many kids do you get in this typical program?
Good question. So, we used to break it down into, well, during COVID, we had 2 separate sessions because we wanted to keep the classes small, but I think last time we had over 20. So it all varies of interest, of how many students we get, you know, interested in there.
Basically notify all of the schools and say,
Yeah, first we start off with,
sometimes you only get 20.
well, yeah, we push it out first to the residents of Cupertino, because that's a cities pay for it, city Saratoga too, they have their high school. And then we just start, you know, involving the rest of the community to see if anybody else is interested. So, but we start off low, kind of make sure we don't want to overbook ourselves as well, too. We only have, you know, 2 or 3 school resource officers, and we want to make sure it's manageable.
That's true.
Any other questions?
Is that an in-person event or this will be?
Yes, it's all in person. So we try to schedule from 8 to 3 during summertime. That way, you know, kids get rides and stuff like that. Or we can coordinate sometimes and have, you know, help them out if they need that. But any tours and stuff leave from the same place.
Age restriction, then attend.
There is, I don't have that with me. I believe there's a minimum, and I do believe there's a maximum age, but I don't have that with me. I can get that back to you. Usually we get students from high school.
Very good stuff. Need like more young people. Join the law.
Yeah. And again, we're not pushing law enforcement. We're not pushing, hey, be a cop. We want to make sure that, I think it's just nice when people say, I want to be an attorney on it. It's really nice. Yeah.
Anything like recognizing that this is important. That's.
Yes.
It's very important for them to get a whole picture of the whole world. Very nice. Nice program.
Our school resource officers do a fantastic job of organizing it, coordinating, and, you know, we try to, you know, get a lot of involvement from our bomb squad, our SWAT team and everything.
Oh, wow.
So it gets very involved with a lot of demonstrations and participation students.
Excellent program. I'd expect more kids to be taking it up, but then again, Cupertino, they're all doing AI.
Yes. All right, that's what I have.
And if I can,
Coffee's kicking in.
all right.
Don't break the streak now.
All right, and we will vote. Commissioner Baker? Commissioner Evans? Commissioner Evans?
Yes. Yes.
Right, 5 yeses, 0 no's. Motion. Next item is a report from the Santa Clara Fire District. Would you prefer that I bring up the map or the slides?
So did you want me to go over the PSRs too, or the just presentation? Good enough. We have, newly formatted, reports that, essentially will give us the updates, and I'll go through those next time around, because they have changed, so I would like to explain the different. I did not bring white glasses, so I'm gonna go ahead and go for this. So what I'll be talking about tonight, and I'd like to say, I think this is the first time I've been in the room with most of you, or some of you, so appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak to any issues that you may have, and do appreciate your questions. So I can either take them during or after, so whatever it is that you prefer, we can do information that I'm gonna try to get through as quickly as possible, but I do appreciate the engagement. So with that, some of the things that are actually top of mind right now, especially because of the fires most recently in Southern California, everybody is pretty much alarmed, but they're also very afraid. There are a lot of things that are coming through from the state level. They're providing new requirements. And with that, property owners have a lot of concerns. So there are some things that are mandated by the state, of the cities, local governments, and of the fire departments or agencies that basically are providing service. So what I was hoping to do was really try to bring to light two big components of things that are actually already out there in the public space. They may not be things that were at the top of your mind, but they were things that have been in place for a very long time. So the new maps for the local responsibility areas. A local responsibility area is essentially where the local fire department or local city has a responsibility for the cost of an event. State responsibility area or SRA is where the state or CAL FIRE would have a responsibility. That doesn't mean that you won't get engagement and participation by both through what we have as a mutual aid system. It just means you're kind of the host agency. It's your event, so you're in charge up to a certain point. And then really it has a lot to do with who's first there, how things are established, depending on the event, how big it gets. It will also kind of play into how things get paid for. And then next, defensible space. Super important to actually just take a close look at defensible space and review some of the things that are already known, but people have maybe not taken the time to really understand what does it look like and how do I apply it in my own personal situation. Marta? Thanks. So the first thing I'll do is I'll talk about the LRA maps. And if I get into acronyms, jargon or whatever, throw the hand up and I'll try to catch myself. So for you to know, the local responsibility or LRA maps were just released. We've been waiting for them for a few years now. And there are a lot of regulations and standards that are created over time, and Board of Forestry is usually the regulating agency that comes up and delivers some of those type things for the minimum fire safe standards. So part of that is where things apply. So LRA map or the local responsibility area maps would be some of your areas like here within Cupertino, like one of the hillsides. The difference is that before it was state responsibility area only that was identified as identified as having a high hazard designation. So these maps, they identify residents who are in moderate, high, and very high fire hazard severity zones. They're designated based on statewide criteria. So there are a number of criteria that are baked into the methodology that CAL FIRE is using in order to determine exactly what level of hazard. But this is hazard assessment, not risk. So risk is really more on the parcel level. The hazard is more of your area and your vegetation types, or topography, the weather, all of these things. There are a number of items that come together when that evaluation is being taken into account. So the hazard severity zones are based on predicted or predicated on the fuel loading, slope, fire weather, and other relevant factors, including areas where winds have been identified by the Office of the State Fire Marshal as a major course of wildfire spread. So what you have is the potential, and then you have the things that are like wind events or something like that really start pushing. So embercast, the amount of fuel, the different weather scenarios that come together, and this will create a scenario that we would actually call things are in alignment for a weather event like we saw in Southern California. We had 80-mile-an-hour winds with gusts of 100 for a sustained amount of time. That was what basically took this, what would have been a wildfire, into a more urban setting where you have basically structure to structure kind of progressive fire. So it's a different type of thing that we're seeing. So the LRA maps are basically to help us identify those areas that have this higher hazard level of potential. Now that the maps have come out, they came out on the 24th. So the first requirement is that within 30 days, the local government would have to make these maps public. Cupertino has made these maps, they have published them, they're on the website. There's a period of open public comment. So that's the first requirement. The time or the clock started on the 24th, and that was a 30-day window. So we're, I think, at day 17 right now. So any local government only has basically just less than about 2 weeks left. And the 24th would be the deadline for that, publishing the map. And then 20 days, also starting on the 24th of February, those maps have to be adopted. So, and the designation of the map that has the moderate, high, and very high severity zones within the jurisdiction are going to be part of the.
You just mentioned that those maps have to be adapted. I have no clue what that means.
So through ordinance, the local government has to go through the process of presenting the map and then adopting it. And the requirement at this point is that they have to be adopted as is. One of the things about the building code, fire code, one of the different codes that are in use. There is no allowance for you to be less strict than base code that's been established. So for these maps, they can be modified, or there can be an attempt to modify them. And the local ordinance can actually say, we believe there's a higher level of risk here, so we will make this a moderate, for example. There are some constraints on how that process can possibly work, and then some requirements if you're gonna add an additional level, like a very high requires justification of local government to the state in order to be approved for that higher designation, because it does carry with it the potential for different building standards. So say that your WUI or your wildland urban interface higher level of building standards, which definitely does reflect in cost, would be something that would be required. But this means you have a higher potential for some kind of event. So those things have to be baked into the building standards that you would be. So it's an appropriate justification for where it is that you happen to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense though, but there's a follow-on question that I'll keep that for later.
So Chief, the commission, who made this map? Is it a statewide thing or?
It's a statewide thing, yeah. So basically it was CAL FIRE that did the analysis and the evaluation. So these maps, the first version of the adopted maps were the maps that we have. It's basically from 2007 that we use as a base map, and then we also have the 2008 version that has only the very high fire severity zones that are designated. That was the last time maps were adopted. Now, there is a requirement that this was actually supposed to happen years ago. It has finally happened. The new state level maps came out last year, and then these followed. So there was a significant delay, but it was in that the process took quite a long time. There were a lot of people that were involved, and the methodology has been evolved over years. So
So in nutshell, statewide map, they are asking Santa Clara Fire Department to accept it.
it's actually the local governments.
The local government.
And I'll get into that in my report.
So is there any, I mean, what is this 30-day, 100-day means basically? I mean, can we change, can we review, can we do anything about it?
So, right,
Is our-
and I'll get into that in my report as well, but the maps are currently available both physically at City Hall and on the city website and available for review and comments.
And this is a very good example of why I want to talk about this, because a lot of people aren't aware.
Exactly, that's my point, is like, even we are not aware, so I think that people, let's say, people who are, living on the hill of Cupertino, or they are really nervous right now, given all the situations, so how they can be aware at least, or give some comment or this.
And I will go into that in my.
And I would say that from a fire department, but from a fire perspective, it's better to be informed.
Yeah.
And that's the intent of these measures, so to have a
Absolutely.
clear understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
And at that point, you can take the appropriate measures to deal with the hazard potential that you happen to be living with. Which is why the connection to the risk being at your parcel level is where defensible space measures come in. So there are two things that work together.
Excellent.
So, the easiest way to go ahead and that's the map. So the easiest way to get into, defensible space is I'd like to show 8 minutes of this video because really there are a lot of preconceived notions of, what defensible space means. A lot of people will, at first be resistance because they, there are a lot of thoughts that I have to have nothing around my house. Fire Safe Marin has done an excellent job creating content. Some of the things that they have very credible, very informed and very proactive program down there. So I use a lot of their content. And so the first 8 minutes will cover several items that provide some clarity on what defensible space is, but more importantly, what it is not. So.
We ask.
Seen the video about 20
Would it be all right if I sent out the video afterwards?
I
We can-
wanted to bring it up. Is there no?
Oh, this is.
And it's pushed.
Can you mute it?
1, 2, 3, go. Get it synced up.
But very specifically, I'm going to talk about some of the myths that surround defensible space. In a lot of ways, these are the frequently asked questions, the commonly asked questions that we respond to. Fire service, we see that the community needs a little extra help understanding the issues that they're actually confronted with. Open up with a quick video, but again, we're talking
About
myth
10
busting
seconds off.
tonight.
Pause it for
Defensible
1 sec.
space.
Okay. So this is footage, this
It's
is
about 2 minutes. We usually don't
Desert
show
area.
action videos, but I want you to watch what happens here and listen to what the firefighters have to say.
go ahead and play right there. I'll talk over it a little bit. So what you're seeing essentially is this is a place where there's a lot of defensible space. There's no vegetation around the home. Not what we're going to see in our area, right? So this is to give you an idea of the intensity of the fire. The amount of insult that's coming off of this is absolutely, it stops you in your tracks. So the concept that firefighters would be on a fire situation, this is not a realistic one. There's really only one reason why. That's vegetation.
There's not that much space between usually the wooded area and the home.
Fairly close to the structure, but the good part about this, the owner of the house was obviously paying attention when someone told him, hey, you really do need physical space between the vegetation and your structure. Dependable space gives us time. Go out here to our north, there's just house after house after house. It's just getting beats of crap right now. So I love that video for a number of reasons. One, if that fire captain, if I ever meet him, I'm gonna buy him a beer. He had the wherewithal to talk to a reporter in the middle of the thick of it, fighting a fire in Riverside County, to talk to the reporter about defensible space and the importance of it. But as you watch that video, you may not have seen that it touches on several of the myths that we're gonna bust tonight. Not so much what the firefighter said, but what was happening in and around the space around that house. So you probably picked up on the fact that that was not Marin County. I don't want you to look at that video and think that the space around that house is what we're asking homeowners to landscape. That might have been an appropriate, it is an appropriate landscape for the desert area where that film was taken. But it opens up this question that we get all the time. The feeling among a lot of people that I need to remove all of the vegetation around my house to create defensible space. Nothing could be farther from the truth. In that video, you saw a house that had 30 feet of bare dirt around it. That may be what's necessary in certain places, in the desert where there are 10-foot tall walls of manzanita or mesquite growing. In Marin County, in most of Northern California, most of the Western US, a beautiful lush green landscape, the kind of landscaping you see in Better Homes and Gardens.
Both have
That's
a
what
chaparral.
that is a defensible space.
Mountains.
So there's absolutely no truth
A
to the
little-
myth that we need
it's a
to
little bit
create,
wetter.
we need to remove all vegetation from the space around our homes. We
Similar
need to think
Santa
carefully
Mountains.
about the vegetation around our homes. We need to things like maintenance. We need to focus on careful plant selection and the landscaping itself. Touch on that. Another myth we hear all the time, defensible space is all about the types of vegetation. Wood shingled house, that vegetation absolutely needs to go. There's no doubt about it. That's a poor choice in vegetation. But that's not all that defensible space is. The choice in vegetation is one small aspect of creating defensible space. We like to think, this is the one sidebar I'm gonna do here because it's directly related. We like to think of
So notice that
the
it doesn't have to be
concept
ugly.
of fire
It's
escaping.
basically the
This is
the
when we combine
hardscaping,
landscaping
which
and
is
hardscaping
stone,
to
anything that's
create
not mulch,
space around
basically,
our house.
decomposed granite.
Defensible space
It could be.
is not just
basically
about the
just
plants, it's about the
making sure that it's
design,
not
it's
up
about
against
the
the
way you
walls
maintain
of the
that
house.
landscape, it's
I'll
about the
talk about
features that
0
you
to
build
5
into the landscape. It's not just the plants. This is a great photograph, just 2 years ago at the Kincaid Fire in Sonoma County. Showing
retaining wall
very clearly how the
made a big
landscaping
difference.
feature, in this
It's
case, a retaining wall is
It's
helping
actually an
direct
attractive landscape
away
feature
from the house.
that's both functional.
If you look closely, you'll see that there's a firefighter there protecting the house. That's gonna come up again.
Do you
and
notice
again
of how
in
high
today's,
the trees are
presentation.
trimmed?
We hear from people all the time that defensible space, creating defensible space, improving their landscaping is gonna ruin their landscaping. They don't want to see the change in their landscaping. It's, I suspect that the person, whose home this is in our audience tonight, one of the best examples we've seen of transformation in a yard. Here's the before photo. Here's the after photo. Same photo, same angle. The issues that this homeowner were confronted with were an old wooden staircase that was attached to the house, several inches of a bamboo hedge towards the back of the house and along the side of the house, a dead tree in the yard. And frankly, some areas that weren't landscaped weren't particularly attractive, which changed to this attractive use of succulents, use of decorative gravel within 5 feet of the structure. In my yard, I will be safe. Again, we're not asking anybody to clear all of the vegetation in their yard, but we want people to know that a defensible space, again, not just about
There's an option.
landscaping or the
Right up against your home, especially if you have.
landscape.
That's actually.
Combustible materials in your yard can have just as big an impact on whether your home's gonna survive. In this case, a fence. We've talked at length about the importance of protecting fences, making sure that fences are not attached to your structure. This is a great example of a yard that has fantastic defensible space in most senses, but that fence carries the fire directly to the home.
Actually, the fence that drew the fire in.
This is probably the big one, the mother of all myths. My neighbor's tree is an extreme fire hazard. I have an inbox full of messages that say just that. People write to us, they call us, they're concerned about their neighbor's tree, oftentimes concerned about their own trees. We want people to look down, not necessarily up, when they're thinking about their defensible space. This is a photograph of the Scripps Ranch community in Southern California. This is a neighborhood that was surrounded by eucalyptus trees. Every home had trees in their side yard, their front yard, and their backyard, and every tree survived. None of the homes survived. This gets to the point we make often, that your homes are most vulnerable to embers. We'll touch on that again in a minute. But I want you to focus on the trees. Again, these are eucalyptus trees. These are a tree that we're concerned about because of the potential fire hazard, because of what falls out of them, the dead vegetation that builds up around the base of them. Believe it or not, these eucalyptus trees were very well maintained. They helped keep the fire out of the treetops, the maintenance work that had been done. And what we had was essentially a fuel break around the community that kept the wildfire from burning directly into the community, but it does nothing to stop the embers. And the homes were vulnerable to the embers that landed on them. Our next.
Okay,
One question.
sure.
So I thought in Southern California, they had a law or a code that basically said you couldn't have the shingle roofs anymore.
Mhm.
So this community did not have that?
That's actually not what caused those houses to burn. So it looked like a newer community, right? And so one of the things that you see a lot of the wood shake roofs have been phased out for quite a long time. So no house that's been built in the last 25 years has
That has that, yeah.
kind of, so you're looking at non-combustible roofs, which are the metal clad, concrete tile, the asphalt. Those are all types of roofs you're starting to see, like you can't even put a metal shake roof or a wood shake roof on a house anymore as a replacement. So these changes are all part of the types of changes that you'll see in the building code. We would call these the chapter 7A code. So this is where you get your requirements, which we can talk about. I can actually present on that in another meeting because it's a different thing. So what we're talking about at the moment is, what does the landscape around your house look like that's gonna keep fire from getting to your house? The next piece where we get to home hardening or structure hardening is, how do you keep the embers from infiltrating your home and actually catching fire? So let's talk a little bit about the defensible space definition. You're gonna hear some terms, and basically there are 3 zones, and you look at the map basically, or the chart, it has your 3 zones. So there's the zone 0, the executive order that was just put out, basically by Governor Newsom, identifies the responsibility for to identify and create the guidelines and the standards that are going to actually govern zone 0. It's not currently an enforced standard at the moment, but it's one that we've been using as a best practice and a recommended action. So the zone 0 is the 5 feet from your house to the 5 feet. So it's not legally required, but for wildfire events, it's probably one of the most important things that you have for fire that is spreading to actually get to your home. So here are the current guidelines for that. You want to use gravel, pavers, concrete, basically anything instead of combustible mulches or other types of materials. As a maintenance practice, anything that's dead or dying, so vegetation, grasses, things like that, you want to get that and clear it. Debris, firewood against your house is not a good thing. If you happen to have anything that you maybe don't have space for storage, people will store things right against their houses that are combustible. So this isn't just wood. This is anything. It can be plastics. It can be anything that will catch fire and actually provide that heat right against your home. Allow it to climb up the wall and get into your vents. This is how the fire actually enters, and that's what you're doing. So keeping branches trimmed 10 feet away from the chimneys, and anything basically that would allow fire brands or other pieces to fall down on your home. Minimizing the combustible items. This is one for decks that people don't usually think about, but if you have cushions, wooden furniture, beautiful teak table that you have on you're very proud of, and it's gonna, anything like that is potentially, it's basically fuel. So us changing our decisions and our choices is actually the thing that we need to do, especially if you have a deck or something like that that's right next to your house. Moving your firewood and other areas to zone 2 is something that you'll want to do. Shifting any of your garbage, your recycling, those types of things, get them away from your home. And then people don't usually think of boats, RVs, ATVs, those types of toys as fuel, but they are fuel, so get those also outside of that zone. And then next, let's talk about zone one. So, zone one, it's actually on the same page. It's the, up to 30 feet, so 5 to 30 feet, from the building or any structure really, including decks. So everything really goes to the point where you reach your property line. There's really not a lot of, other than having good neighbors, and having good cooperative and friendly relationships, you know, and encouraging each other, even helping each other clear space. That's probably the best defense that you can have in order to protect your home in this zone, especially if you're in a normal residential lot where your house happens to be within 30 feet of another house. So you want to regularly trim your trees. A tree should be trimmed within 10 feet of each other, and there should be a gap in this zone. You want to have any flammable plants or shrubs, keep those away from your windows. Clearing flammable vegetation from under deck. So this is an important part where if you have a deck, having some kind of rock or some other type of thing that doesn't allow accumulation of debris underneath it, ensure that you have any LPG or gas tanks, that those also have 10 feet of clearance around them. Also a great idea to put some kind of non-combustible ground cover. And then let's talk about zone two for a sec. So what you have there is basically the zone one is also called the lean green or lean, clean and green space. So you're getting rid of all dead materials. There's nothing to creep up to your house, and there's nothing to go up high. So in the zone two, that's the 30 to 100 foot range. Lot more space. There can be trees, there can be plants, there can be shrubs, but the important thing is you also want to make sure that grasses are cut back down to 3 to 4 inches. You want to make sure that you have any dead or dying vegetation cleared. So that's universal. And then when you have your spacing of trees, you know, really it has more to do with, there's a standard that you can find on CAL FIRE's website, but essentially you want to have that gapping in between plants at an appropriate, and it has to do with the height of the plant. So it's usually like a 2x formula, and the best way to do that is to push you towards the website for defensible spaces. There's a lot of resources either through FireWise or through CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE I would recommend as the best ones, and they're the easiest. So I pulled some of these images from. But when it comes down to defensible space, the neighborhood that you saw there was enough space for embers to, if they were airborne, to fly and cool off and not accumulate at the base of the house because there was a bunch of brush or there was a bunch of pine needle or something. So fire is very opportunistic, and firebrands are that thing that catches when accumulated materials. And I would say that one thing I live with myself up in the mountains. You have to get out and you have to clean your gutters. You have to do all of the maintenance is every week during fire season, and fire season is lasting most of the year now. So for us, as our new normal with current conditions, this is the stuff that has to be done because firefighting efforts are going to be severely impacted by how intense the fire is. It's the evacuation, being ready and actually acting. And it's time to go that's going to save your lives. But the thing that's going to save your home is all the work that happens in advance. And that's where defensible space comes in. And we can talk again about the home hardening, which will make your house resilient or your structures more resilient from the insult of fire or fire events. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer.
Yeah, like similar to how like for like prime safety, there exists like neighbor watch. I wonder if there's like, because it seems like a lot aspects of like fire safety, especially for like the folks who live near the hills and stuff, requires a lot of like mutual like cooperation and awareness. I wonder like, is there a way we could like broadcast this to like any block leaders who are up there in those areas that fall within the LRA zones?
So I'll get into it a little bit, but would you like to talk about firewise communities?
Absolutely. So here's the thing, firewise communities are probably the best thing that you can do in order to create this, you're talking, this is actually community. So with that, you get a better, you get to know your neighbors, you understand you have common goals, you work on things together. I'm a co-leader of a firewise group in my neighborhood. So what that does is that allows us to come together. We get annual training. We have a certain number of hours. There's a number of things that we track when it comes to fuel mitigation that we put in. We have, so there's structure basically for a community that wants to do something to make themselves safer. So I would say that it's not just the existence of one firewise community, because we're really approaching things in a regional nature now. That's the only real effective way to do it. So I would say that encouraging everyone in the hillsides to be part of the firewise community is the recommendation that I would appreciate coming from my county or my city. And anything that would allow for me to use resources that are already available, so kind of broadcasting or amplifying services that are provided is another thing. The firewise communities at that point can leverage for you. So I would say that there's also an opportunity for the firewise communities to come together and have collective goals. And that really distributes the amount of safety that your community has, and then also the plans that you have for, hey, when it's time and or when the weather's bad, red flag days, or there's the potential for fire, or there is a fire, and now we need to be more aware. There are programs on readiness, situational awareness, and knowing how to act or react during a time where a fire is actually threatening a neighborhood. So a lot of that comes to pre-planning and effort done through firewise communities, and I would say that through fire safety. So you can also find a lot of resources, but I personally advocate firewise communities most.
Okay.
After you,
When we drive down 17 or something, you see the sign that says, fire status today is red or
Yeah.
orange or whatever. Those employees are part of the forest.
That's CAL FIRE.
That's CAL
So-
FIRE.
so
So
that's
that's a state my question's a little bit, I'll give you a little. So I'm concerned that a lot of the fire rangers are being removed from their positions. Is it the forest rangers are being removed from their positions thanks to Doge? But I'm concerned, are they state employees or are they federal employees? And do we still have enough people who are watching
So
the fire?
so it depends. So
Okay.
there's there are federal, there are Department of Forestry or federal fire, or there are federal firefighters, and that would be your forestry people.
Mhm.
There are state firefighters, that would be more like the CAL FIRE,
Mhm.
and then there are the locals.
Local ones.
And that would include your city departments. We are part of a fire district, we're special fire district, and so that's where when it comes to an event, that's why I mentioned the mutual aid system. Everyone knows that it doesn't take much to be overwhelmed by a large event. So with that, that's why the structure or the mutual aid system exists. We also act as the area coordinator, Santa Clara County Fire does, in order for this region. So when it comes time for resource requests to go out, for example, I think we sent 2 strike teams, so it was 10 engines immediately after the fires down south. Those requests come in and we can send rigs out within an hour, or usually it could be less than that, but depending on the situation. Those are intended for immediate response, and then follow-ups will come through. So there's a very well-developed and structured system to get firefighters where they need to be. And everyone now has been living with it so long, or every fire department in the state has been living with it so long, is that we've gotten to the point where we know how much we can afford to send
Mhm.
and still be very conservative and safe when it comes to making sure that if a second event were to occur, that we would have people here that can respond to our residents. So that's a balancing act that um, firefighters are experiencing due to budget, there are always constraints, and those are always things that we have to deal with. But I think that when it comes to staffing levels and all, I can just say that I know that county fire, our current academy would put us at, I think, pretty close to 100% staffing of authorized positions. So we should see those people in about maybe 12 weeks. We just started an academy.
Mhm.
So we are in a good position at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief Hector. It's a great video and it's a lot of information. Thank you very much. I do have a question like, do you have any ask to this Public Safety Commission for any resources like cameras or sensors? I don't know how many you have. Like non-human resources, are there anything that you need?
Yeah, I think that we conduct building inspections every year, and one of the things that we do is we contact members of the community in the designated buoy or in these hazard severity zones. We have a very low response rate. So there is a form that goes out. It has the different items that are mandated. So these are the things that you must do, and I covered a few of them, quite a few of them. And then there are the recommendations, which will also bridge into home hardening. So these are best practices and these are recommendations. The numbers that we get, and really the intent on that messaging is, it's time for you to take a close look at your potential vegetation risk and have, so we provide the information and then we ask, there's a bounce back card that also has a QR code. So people can actually come back and say, this is what I'm gonna do. And we ask them to do one of several things. One of them is that they say that I can acknowledge that I have none of these conditions on my property. The one would say, I do have some of these conditions and I will correct them. And then there's an opportunity to report back, there are no structures on this property. Whenever we get one of those, we're very skeptical because we know who we sent it to. So we always, we have the same problem every year. And that is, we have extremely low response rate. So people are being provided information. And I understand people are busy, but, based on the 3.5 years I've been here, the response rates have been, less than 20%. So these people who live in these zones that we actually know are, have higher hazard potential. And we are telling them what their risk variables are electing or for some reason not responding or engaging. So my ask of the Safety Commission would be to amplify that and see if we can get the highest number in our district. So that I can say, if I can say that 50% came back with a response next year, that would be an extraordinary achievement. Because just any kind of, I think 50% of anything is like amazing. So I would say that's.
Reaching out that you say, are this in the targeted areas of the Cupertino or all residents?
They are in the areas within the hazard zone.
Which is the hazard zone, so
And so next year, there would be a great opportunity for an information effort to go out to let people know that they are gonna now receive this messaging. And we have in the past, I think it was 2 years, I sent out a letter saying, you didn't answer us last year. Can you please answer us this year? And the numbers were still. So it's a mail piece that goes to the actual registered owner of the home. So some of them go to different states. The thing is that they are the ones that actually own the home. So that person, regardless of the tenant, then we also have our engine companies doing buoy inspections. So there's an overlap there. So everybody that got a letter, quite a few of them will get an inspection anyway. So independent of what they reported, we'll see their house anyway. These are all done from the public right away. So it's not an intrusive process, but these are the easy things to see. If you have encroaching vegetation on your roof, or if you have debris or wood piled up against your home, these things can usually be seen from the street.
So, just one last question on this also. Is there any way that we can work through the insurance companies, or insurance, home insurance companies that this is something serious, right? This is something that, this is just don't get. It can be part of their, checklist, like some survey, some regular action. Or at least.
It's I would say a little bit of a sketchy thing.
Sketchy.
Because the insurance company will do what they have been doing to my neighbor who's 90 years old, and they just cancel her insurance.
Cancel the insurance.
Our tree grew to that size.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, always,
Yeah.
they are like.
And I think that when it comes to the insurance companies, there's a person who can elect to either comply with the standards or not. The code enforcement component of something like this gets a little bit challenging. But for example, if you go through the process with us and we inspect your home, we find that there's a violation and you fail to actually resolve it. There is a potential that you'll actually get referred through the city.
To the insurance.
No, to the county where the work will actually be done. The goal isn't to be punitive to fine you and not correct the problem. It is to correct the problem. So with that in mind, there's a lot of opportunity for the homeowner, for the property owner to fix the problem. And if not, then the process to actually take the referral to the county for the county's weed abatement group will actually take over. And then that also takes council action. It ends up getting referred and will move on to your property taxes potentially. So this is one way of dealing with it. The other is that I do actually see how the insurance industry has kind of become the enforcement component, and that is the market is kind of taken over and done that. So there is a way, though. There are certifications that are available to the insurance companies that they honor. What they're trying to do is they're trying to distribute risk throughout the state. So I think that the new normal will be a scenario that actually allows for them to do the way where they have confidence. And that means if these certifications are actually something that can be provided or granted through the enforcing agency, fire department, firewise community, or another entity that is trusted and compliant with the standards that the insurance companies need in order to feel that the bottom line is something that will justify them being in the state, then there is, but I'm talking about a lot of stuff that is really gonna have to play out in the market. For us in the partnership, we look for alignment with what the insurance company is doing, because we know that if we're gonna make an effort, it's gonna have to be something that actually has a true opportunity for a positive outcome. So we are looking at the standards that are being created by the insurance industry that they see as having value. And we are attempting to make sure that our efforts are in alignment. But we don't have any partnerships with insurance.
Thank you very much. In continuing that, right, coming back to the resource, like the cameras or the sensor for prevention of the fire, right? Or as soon as to have a quick alert. So how many are already integrated, or do you have all the resources, or you need
The alert warning cameras.
Uh-huh.
I don't actually know how many there are. I know that we monitor them, and I actually have an app that tells me when we have a smoke column, and those are how they identify. So I do not know. I can probably look into to see what it is, but they're basically they're very good. They'll identify, even dust or other items. So they're looking for they basically look for that pattern. And I know that they're integrating AI.
So yeah, I have recently heard the PG&D CEO touting about like, okay, we have implemented so many sensors and cameras for the fire prevention or quick early alert. So I was wondering like how many of the Alert California are integrated or the PG&E is integrated with your department?
With us, so it's an independent system, but the information is shared. So we actually don't have any part or ownership of the infrastructure. But I know that PG&E was actually one of the bigger contributors to the number of actual sensors that are available. I don't have the information. I could look into that.
So you are happy with the resources of the sensors you already have?
I would love to see more. I think that continuing on some of the efforts that have been started, I think we're on our way to a better scenario, and I think that we still have ways to go. So I would say that a lot would have to change for me to be satisfied. But with that, the sensors and having those opportunities, because that really, one of the things that happens is that allows us to basically, if fire conditions are high, then we can put ourselves in a position where we either have augmented staffing or additional people, or we can actually just have a higher level of awareness. And as soon as something happens, what we will do, fire service wise, would we adjust the response number of units to how much potential a fire may have on a given day. So when you see fire risk today is high, there is an augmented increased number of units that's immediately
standby.
dispatched when, well, the ones that are actually coming. So instead of me sending one fire engine to your house because there's a little bit of smoke showing on a rainy day, it would be like on a hot summer with a lot of wind. They will send a structure response, which might be 3 engines to a truck and a battalion chief or something like that. So you're basically just getting a higher level or higher number of units based on the level of potential, which includes for wildfire and those cameras, air units. And those are the ones that actually really make the big difference.
In the interest of time, I'm gonna cut this conversation off here. It is past 7:30 and we do have more to get through. So if you have further questions about this, let me know and we'll work to put some. So
Thank
if I could have a motion to accept the report of the fire district.
A second that.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Motion passes unanimously. And next we have a report from the Santa Clara Sheriff's Office. If we could hold all questions to the end.
All right, real quick, this is just going over, basically what I report every single meeting is I just go over response times. So the target response times for Cupertino, priority 1 calls are 5 minutes, priority 2 calls are 9 minutes, priority 3 calls are 20 minutes. Alarms fall and priority 2 calls. Your priority 1 calls are life and death calls. That means there's something we need to be there like now. CPR in progress, home invasion with a person calling that somebody broke into their home and their home. Residential burglaries fall under priority 2 calls. You call us or our alarm company calls us and says there's a potential break-in. Our contract is be there between 9 minutes, the average. So far, we've had about 5 minutes and 64 seconds, and we've had about 908 priority 2 calls. Your priority 3 calls are just your routine calls. They're parking complaints, barking dogs, whatever it is. It's more of a routine call for service, and we have be there within 20 minutes as our response time. And as you can see, we're well within our contextual obligations on that. Moving right along, the next set of slides is just it's more statistical data that we have. Your robberies, you can see they can be classified as anything by force or fear. If anybody doesn't know what a robbery is, it's essentially stealing something from somebody using force or fear. A bank robbery, for example, if you walk into a bank, pointed the gun at somebody, said, "Give me the money," that's a robbery. Residential burglary, you're looking at somebody who breaks into a residence and commits a theft within the residence. And you can see the numbers there that we've had in January and February and where we're at total. Your commercial burglaries are where somebody walks into a business establishment, theft. Burglary, vehicle burglaries, you're looking at somebody breaks into a car to break in. Grand thefts are classified by monetary amount. So anything that meets a threshold over a certain amount is considered grand theft. Auto theft is stealing of a vehicle. You have your vandalism, identity theft, forgery, domestic violence and simple aggravated assaults and your sex crimes that are being reported within the city of Cupertino. Moving right along, these are all like traffic related incidents. I'm not really, this kind of breaks it down a little too granular. This kind of shows the patrol units. Your patrol units are your deputies that are out there who are responding to calls. So their priorities is calls for service. And you can see the citations that they issued out. You can see moving violations, speeding citation, other citations, their DUI arrest, and how many accidents they have. You can go down to the next one. These are separated altogether. These are just traffic units. These are your traffic deputies. And as you can see, in January, I got 3 new traffic deputies who are very, very, very go-getter. As you can see by the numbers, they are out there working extremely hard. I mean, it's an unusual number to see 344 citations in a month, and so they're
It's around the schools.
it's all over the place, all over the city. So will say that there's a lot of targeted enforcement. So when I get a complaint from residents saying, hey, there's vehicles aren't stopping for pedestrians in a certain intersection, I will send them all out there and they will all work that intersection to try to drive curb behaviors with their attendants. Try to get people to slow down for pedestrians or yield to pedestrians in the walkways, the crosswalks. This kind of puts them all together, just lumps in the patrol deputies versus the traffic deputies. And as you can see, that's their statistic, the stats that they, for the citations in Cupertino. And lastly, this is all accidents. You can see where, we had 7 injury accidents, 15 property damage. We had 1 bike pedestrian, no hit and runs with injuries. And we've had about 8 hit and runs with property damage in February. And then DUI 3, February 1 in January. Just kind of give you your breakdown of accident city. So with that is it. I will open up for any questions you guys may have regarding any of the data that is presented today.
So common feeling and perception is reality for a lot of people. Is that there's lots of deputies, traffic, cops at the schools in, school time. And then it all dies down and that's when the burglaries happen. Is there a way that they can, just patrol the area, the traffic cops? I mean, we don't know the difference. Layman doesn't know that's a traffic cop versus a, patrol. They just see Santa Clara.
Yeah. So yes and no. So a couple of things. Traffic deputies are specifically out there to do traffic enforcement, and they start really early. So when school starts and before school starts, and they usually leave around 3, 4 in the afternoon. So they're usually gone by then. And an accident report, to write an accident report takes a significant amount of time. So the deputy has to come back to the office and write their accident reports. So usually the burglaries occur in the late afternoon, late at night. They're already gone by then. It's unsafe to keep a motor officer nighttime in the city. So they usually only work daytime for traffic enforcement. So we do have, like I said, our patrol deputies that cover during the other times, but the traffic deputies usually only work in high peak traffic times, and that's their main focuses. Again, if there is an alarm though, and they're the nearest person, they will respond. They have all the tools with them on their motorcycles. But we get a lot of complaints for traffic at schools, so that's their first thing they do in the morning. They try to do, making sure that the kids are going to school safely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's nobody on the weekends, the traffic are not available.
Not necessarily. We do sometimes, depending upon, like in the summertime, when we get a lot of motorcycle traffic, we do, because a lot of kids are out there driving motorcycles, especially through Highway 9 and up the Anza. So we sometimes do focus on some traffic issues because we get accidents with motorcycles on the weekends. But that's usually under summertime or good weather when people have more motorcycles out there. But no, we don't have any traffic per se on the weekends, just because everything pretty much is died down as far as traffic wise goes for the weekend. So there are a higher number of deputies on the weekends than there are on the weekdays though. So, but specifically traffic, no.
So Captain.
Yeah.
General per month, how many hours of deputy time goes in the traffic versus the non-traffic?
So the way that the sheriff's contract is broken down, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the city of Cupertino pays for X amount, I think it's like 42,000 general enforcement hours. I think I'm getting closer. And that's
How much?
42,000 average. I'm not, please don't quote me that that's accurate. Per year, yes, per year. And these are productive hours. Essentially responding to calls, report writing, stuff like that. And then they also pay for traffic hours, and those are separate from general enforcement hours. Yeah, they're completely separate, and I don't have the number of how many hours the city pays for every single year. But every month I look at the numbers and make sure that we're staying within the allotted hours, because any overages cost city money to go over those hours that they paid for. Same thing with detectives, same thing with reserves, same thing with school resource officers.
They're all.
Yes, yeah.
You get that number?
I can give you it's not, it's part of the sheriff's office contract, so it's not like it's a hidden thing. It's public record. We
I
have,
believe it's also part of the budget bill.
yes, yeah, yeah. So there is an allotted number of hours, and these numbers they've been pretty similar for several years, because we don't want to try to, the city can always elect to add more or take away if they need to.
I mean, definitely what we observe that the perception, experience of the residents has changed recently, last 5 years or so. Lot more, feel that little more unsafe to walk in the street, burglary happening. You see in the different WhatsApp group or chat in the neighborhood. And so that's why this numbers, matter specifically, if something is going on for a while, that allocation maybe be allocated differently.
Yeah, I'm always open to any suggestions from any residents that want to, that specifically say, hey, this stop sign, this crosswalk is. That people know a lot of their, they're the way the traffic is. Sometimes we get a lot of complaints, for people crossing the street at Apple during lunchtime. So our deputies try to do that. The ends of Stevens Creek during, pedestrian commute time when people are walking to lunch as well too. Then again, it's just, we get a lot of complaints about every traffic all through the city. Biggest one is usually schools in the morning, so that's where they focus on a lot in the mornings. Speeding, if people complain of speeding on Homestead or Stevens Creek, they'll go out there and do speeding as well too, if they need to, so. It all depends, it just, they're busy going back and forth to different things, responding to accidents and then having to do a lot of stuff, so. But any specific concern, you address to myself and I could make sure that we address it.
Another question. There was a, theft, that $900, there's a state limit.
Yes,
There, and that number was not getting reported earlier, right? Now it is, some law has changed, right, statewide, count those.
we've always been counting them. I've always provided them to the city. We always track grand thefts. Grand theft is, if you leave your bike, e-bikes are a big thing with being stolen, so it's a grand theft. So if you leave it or people leave their garage door open and somebody walks by and steals the bike.
Things like that in the store, store theft and stuff like that.
We usually consider it under residential, the commercial burglary. So, because it doesn't matter what the amount is. You can steal $100, you can steal $1,000.
Has this reported in this number?
Yes, it's under the commercial burglary number. Yeah, you've seen a lot of social media stuff where we arrest people for $100 worth of merchandise or $1,000 worth of merchandise. It's considered under commercial burglary.
Oh, I see. So it's a lot of statistics and a lot of information. So you were earlier saying there were like targeted hours like weekend. That's where mostly home burglaries are happening. So do we have the data that says, okay, these are the areas like, are you able to increase the patrols during those targeted hours? Or is there any recommendation to, again, Public Safety Commission?
No, or we have an analyst, full-time analyst for the sheriff's office, always really well about gathering data. The problem is sometimes the majority of residential burglaries, we don't know when they occur. About 50% of them, we just don't know. There's no video camera, no alarm. Homeowners were away for a week, right? So we just don't know when they happened, right? If we have a targeted time where the homeowner can confirm, I left for an hour, it happened during this time on this day, that data is tracked by our analyst and essentially found out that it's usually Thursday to Saturday sometimes Sundays is second, but Thursday, Saturday is the highest. Anywhere from, I believe, 2 in the afternoon till 1 o'clock in the morning is the highest peak time. Now, don't say that if it happened any other time, it's not considered it, but it's just, we're trying to find trends so that we can focus on those trends and apply the appropriate resources. I don't want to just throw a bunch of deputies out in the street and we don't have a burglary for a week. And mind you, our deputies were short-handed, you know, they were on some mandatory overtime. And so I don't want to overwork them to do nothing. I'd like to focus our efforts into providing the best optimal time for the best enforcement. So, yeah, yes.
So so some people have alarms, most people seem to have it these days, but a lot of them are using these Wi-Fi based alarms. So
Yeah.
they're not the ones that were wired. And so one of the burglaries that happened, they actually jammed the alarm. How, do you have any statistics and says how often this has happened and what is the solution for people that are relying on these software alarms?
So Wi-Fi jammers are a thing. We've had people arrested with Wi-Fi jammers. We've also seen on Ring cameras where thieves are caught, we're using Wi-Fi jammers. It's not very, how should I say, full safe proof. So when thieves are using that method, they're still going to try to stick to the 3-minute entry and out exit because they're not 100% sure that these things are actually not providing all the information, right? It's a really thing, but they are being used. You know, we can recommend, hey, get your alarm system hardwired, get your cameras hardwired, but that's a lot of money that people sometimes just don't have the money for. They're not that common. They do occur. But again, even if you're just looking at it from the point of view of a burglar, they're in and out within minutes. And if they break into your sliding glass door, they're going through your master bedroom or the place where they believe the most expensive things are, they're out within 3 minutes. By that time, your alarm company is trying to contact you or the homeowner. By that time, they say, send the deputies. Now we have 9 minutes to get there. I mean, it's really, it's as much as, you know, people are scared of the Wi-Fi jammers, they're still keeping to the same tactics as they are, whether they have them or not. And eventually what happens is your alarm system, your Wi-Fi eventually kicks in, and that's where you can still actually see all the Ring camera video. It's just delayed in getting to the person. So there's still evidence that we get out of it, even if they use a Wi-Fi camera. So.
I have a question kind of for both of you. One of the issues that happened in Southern California was looting during fires. And maybe this isn't true, but I've heard you're supposed to keep your doors unlocked if you get an evacuation notice so that firefighters can get in. Do you have any comment about that or recommendations?
We have a system in the fire department. Now, we've done drills together in different areas where we do fire drills. The issue is when we do have an evacuation order, we try to keep a deputy or an officer behind. And we try to keep it, you know, a place where we say you have to stay out, right? But we really technically a lot of times can't do that, you know, so people still come in and out even though they've been told there's an evacuation notice. The way that we have it, and it's something that we don't disclose, is when deputies give an evacuation notice, they will mark the house in a certain way. We don't provide that information anywhere. I think a lot of the time, the biggest trouble that came in that area is they were marking the house very clearly that it was nobody home, or
So
they're putting like an X on the door or something like that, right? So we just have to be a little bit cognizant of not alerting people also when we think that when we make an evacuation notice. So we do have other methods of letting everybody know that we've already given an evacuation notice to this resident and evacuated.
You try to only notify those people, not the whole town, that, hey, this area.
It goes by areas. So between the fire department and us, we'll sit together. We'll see where the danger zone is. We'll give warnings. And I think it's Genesis, right?
Yep.
Genesis Protect, and it'll have actual locations broken down by threat areas. And what we can say is we can give areas evacuation notices and then everybody around their warnings. And then in that way you can change. And then we'll have another meeting. We'll come in and say, okay, the fire's moving a little bit closer now. The people that got the warnings need the evacuation notice. Our deputies will start going out, start knocking on doors. Time to go, you know, if you haven't been gone. My suggestion is you get a warning, it's probably time to go. Because the roads will get really piled up when it's time to go.
Right, right. Thanks.
The reason for the unlocked is that when one of the things that a crew would do if they have the assignment to go into protect, they have a structure protection assignment, is they'll come in, they'll make sure that windows, shades, things like that are drawn, because it's that broken window that allows them. There are those types of things that can actually be done in order to prep a home, especially if defensible space is actually there, that will put the home in a much better place for. So the problem is, in order to be able to do that, access is one. And then the other piece would be if the structure was necessary for to be used as an area of refuge as a last resort, because things were just kind of pushed too far. That's the other reason. So, it's a problem, and just the everything we talked about is definitely part of the process. It's one of the things that gets discussed at the data security measures, especially if there are people that are noticed in the area. It's that point, very large incident where they take a close look at what's going on. Security is one of the primary things.
Yeah, and there's times where we have to pull our deputies out of areas just because it's unhealthy, it's a hazard. And again, if people are refusing to, don't want to leave, just really have no way of telling who actually is coming in and going, you know?
Gotcha.
So all this real camera and the cameras that have like lot of people, they record video, right? And those help in your investigation tangibly, do you see that?
Yes, like I said, and this was talking about these burglaries that we solved. We noticed that the individuals were casing. Oftentimes when they'll come back, when they're committing the crime, they're wearing a mask. But before they go out there, they will not be wearing a mask. And in some of these cases, we found these individuals 2 or 3 days before the burglary, knocking on the door, you know, trying to talk to somebody, asking for directions. These are key indicators of absolutely, you need to give us a call when these people are knocking on doors. And we always say, you know, with technology the way it is, there should be nobody knocking on your door saying, you know, I'm looking for someone, so and so, you know, or I'm selling something. Just give us a call. We'll go out there. We'll talk to the individual, make sure we contact them, take their fingerprints if we can. I mean, if we notify of something like that, we're on them really fast. And then they know that this is probably not the right neighborhood to hit because the cops will be here pretty fast.
That's an option, that would be an interesting option for people to know about. Because oftentimes you get a whole bunch of people just walking by the neighborhood and you're like, may not open the door to them, but then.
It's always classic burglar will actually knock on your door, knock on your windows before they break in. They don't want anybody home. And so when we tell people, if someone knocks on your door, if you're not gonna open the door, make yourself known that you're there. And if you feel there's something unusual about this person, you know, give us a call. You're not wasting our time. That's what we're supposed to, that's what we're here for. And that's the biggest problem we get is a lot of people go, well, they want to call because they don't want to bother. Yeah, that's the only reason why we're here, to respond to calls like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, really.
Motion to accept the report.
Move to see the report.
Second. And,
Yes.
Yes.
all right, I guess it's unanimous. I will try and go quickly for the City of Cupertino report. Three topics: staff training, a little bit more about the hazard maps and staffing. Recently, we held an exercise with the public works staff and our innovation and technology staff. They created a new app called, it was field reporting, and I believe it's now field maps. It's a way for us in the EOC to get a better idea of what's going on in the field from what's out there, as well as to more easily dispatch information. So we get a 311 call that a tree is down, then this information can be sent to a nearby crew. And then they can take photos showing, yes, this is done, or someone will need to come back to this, or this is not something that we can do right now. Or in the case of, I think it was down power lines, right? That's PG&E. That information then comes back to the city and there is now a dashboard that we will have within the EOC. So that we can see, okay, are we overloaded? Where are there more issues? And are we safe? We will have a second training on that. We'll be doing a sort of simulation where the crews will actually go out into the city and we'll practice with dispatchers. I also attended a full-scale exercise with a family assistance center.
It's not updated there. It's not, you're not sharing?
No.
Okay,
Just to go quickly.
okay.
This was hosted by Bay Area Urban Areas Security Initiative. This was a exercise held at PayPal Park where the BFC and the earthquakes play of the active threat situation as well as the response afterwards. And I will say we have a lot of great partnerships. Actually spoke with some people who were newly named chaplains to do grief counseling after session. So for the hazard maps, what the city is currently doing is we have, actually, let me pull up the map one more time. This map is on display downstairs in City Hall. So that anyone can come and see it. The reason it is where it is it's because that is right where people come for building and planning permits. So they can right away look and see if, hey, we need to make some changes to our plans. We are also planning a public information push, as well as more mailers to the folks who live in these areas. To let them know, hey, you're in an area that you may need to take some steps. The city is also working with the Santa Clara Fire Safe Council. They received funding from CAL FIRE to do some vegetation treatment. They are working both with the jurisdictions, so with the cities, but also private property owners. You may notice that there's some overlap with HOAs, right? In where we've got the higher danger zones. So they will be working with the HOAs if possible, to mitigate some of the danger, and that's mostly going to be for vegetation management. And we're looking at other ways to another aspect of that is as some of you may have heard in previous reports that I've given, the Block Leader Program has been doing individual preparedness and build a kit events. As we are going to still continue doing those. And then also looking at, okay, how can we look at protecting our homes? How can we talk to our neighbors? How can we adjust our landscaping within the recommendations? And that hopefully will be in partnership with the Fire Safe Council as well. For staffing, we are finalizing a contract for a interim emergency manager. In terms of continuity, I will remain the liaison. But I think as was brought up at the last meeting, I am the only full-time staff member at the moment for the Office of Emergency Management. I am doing my best, but if things are a little further behind than I'm used to, please understand that at the moment, it is just me. As soon as we get the contractor on, things will speed back up and we'll get more on pace. Any questions?
So when will we get a full-time person?
We're working on it, yeah.
As you can figure it out, we're slow. We're really slow. So the reason for delaying the recruitment is that the other cities are recruiting for the same position right now.
So there are not enough people for this job?
There's not what?
There is not enough candidate for the job?
This, I mean, if I could kind of put it in a sense, Tom was a unicorn. There aren't that many unicorns out there. And many cities are all actively looking for that unicorn. So, I mean, I hope you agree with me. I'd rather find another unicorn as opposed to just find a warm body to fill this position, which is why I'm taking the time for the recruitment. I'm not speaking belittle Marta, but it just, Tom has taken on a lot, and so, and I think I want to give Marta a really big kudos, so this is her first meeting. Stepping up and really managed the committee very well. Very little supervision from any of us. All I had to do, she asked me to come here just to kind of give her the support, but you're doing a very good job.
So you have a unicorn?
Huh?
You have a unicorn?
Yes, but I am
There
not
we go.
qualified to be an emergency manager. As you may have noticed in my email signature, I'm the block leader coordinator. So I am learning. This is a learning opportunity, but I would not put myself forward to. There is just information or knowledge that I don't have, this background that I don't have. And so part of the process is finding someone who does have that background, who does have the knowledge, and is also familiar enough with our area to not just give generic answers, looking at this and saying, oh, you should just cut down all the trees in the neighborhood. That's not gonna fly in Cupertino. So this is a recruitment process. We are looking. We're making the progress that we.
So I have one more question for the city manager. So compared to Los Altos, Senatorial, et cetera, what is the size of their Office of Emergency Management? In each of these cities?
They're very small offices of emergency management. The county, I believe the county has 20 people.
Yeah. So what I was also hoping is to rely more heavily on the county. County is our hub, and Hector is nodding because you guys stole Tom from me, so. So we're hoping to have more coordination through Tom's familiarity with us and really put a more heavier emphasis back on. Not to say that I'm not gonna fill the position, but I think there's an opportunity for better collaboration going forward.
So all the neighboring cities just have one person.
So until recently, Cupertino was also the Office of Emergency Management for Saratoga.
Territories don't have anything.
And so the OEM at the county level has, the structure to basically be able to reach out. And so it creates more of a network. And it is a system that works together is actually the strongest. So, working in silos and having people that work, in individual cities that have the connections and the relationships. So that, shared resources, once again, this is the regional approach that is in place, so that, for the participation of all of the exercises, like as the liaison for Cupertino that I participated in through the city, there've been members from pretty much most jurisdictions at not the level. So it's definitely a network. There's no, even though there's just one person in some of these areas, they're not alone. It's a little bit like the mutual aid system. So with that, I would agree, Tom and Martha have been great partners and doing a fantastic job, and they continue to do so. I apologize for, but I don't, because Tom's off.
I will not take your apology, but I understand.
But he still will be available as a resource from the county level. So, you know, these partnerships are actually valuable. So, he's still accessible as a resource.
I actually saw him yesterday. That was
Yeah, he's still on our Fab Five.
I see him quarterly. I'm on another county regional board that I see him with other managers. Which is why, I mean, it's almost unsustainable for a city of our size to have our own emergency management division. We rely heavily on county on a lot of the regional information. So town has been a wonderful bridge for us in the past. So that uniform I'm looking for is something of the same caliber. But keep in mind that Marshall has always been heavily on the neighborhood and block leader and other mandates that city council has provided to us. So she's kind of doing a two people's job right now.
Or had a quick, like regarding the stuff, like the fire hazard severity stuff. So like, I think earlier we were talking about how like about the Firewise communities and stuff. So is there indeed like a kind of a plan to send some of that recommendation to the block leaders up there, like, hey, maybe, you know, form a Firewise community?
So that'll be part of the public information campaign that
Okay.
we're working on with the communications team. I will also be doing my best to, depending on their availability, invite someone from the Fire Safe Council to come to a future block leader meeting. Permission to have food at that one, so hopefully we'll have a lot of people, and I'll be asking block leaders to bring a friend or two to really get that information out. I believe they will also be tabling at the public safety fair, so they'll be available to answer questions. But yeah, right now I'm working with communications of, okay, we have a history of people not responding, so what new way do we have? I want to be very, you know, when I'm reaching out to block leaders, I do not want to have some shame campaign of like, take a photo of your neighbor's yard and point out what, you know, oh, there's something wrong, partially because, as we saw, that is a myth.
Right.
But also because it's not a sustainable way to change future behavior. So we are looking at the best way to reach out, and you know, that might be through you have the great idea of the UC Master Gardeners. That they might be someone who can a group that can connect to people that maybe aren't going to connect to me in the same way and listen to the recommendations. So we are trying to go as diverse as possible and as broad way of communication as possible. I think we've all noticed that, you know, one singular message is not going to reach everyone. So we're trying to broaden that, diversify it, have the same core message. But we don't approach teenagers and seniors with the exact same language, so to speak.
So neighborhood watch program, is that a separate program than block leader program?
Yes, so the Neighborhood Watch is a national program that was started through the National Sheriff's Association.
I believe so, yeah, that's about right.
So in Cupertino, we do it a little bit differently. We're, you know, not the exact same as the whole nation. So the way that the Neighborhood Watch program works here in Cupertino is a resident will reach out. And I will work with the sheriff's office to schedule a presentation in the community. I want to emphasize that we don't ask people to come to us, we go to them. And we're not talking one-on-one, we're trying to bring a whole neighborhood together. We go over, I'm not doing this part of the presentation. The representative from the sheriff's office goes over if there's something specific in that area. If there is a particular concern, then they'll go into that. We'll look at trends over time, looking at what exactly people can do to make their home that little bit safer. My role then in that presentation is the community aspect. So, you know, not just putting something on next door, but also, hey, when you see your neighbor, make sure that you connect with them. We had one presentation, I think it was my second presentation that I was at. Two people had lived next door to each other for 10 years, and they finally turned over and said, hey, there's a truck that's outside your house at 8 every morning. Is that supposed to be there? So our goal is to have people have those conversations now so that they know what's going on in their neighborhood. They know what to look out for, which is the things that don't make sense.
What percentage of Cupertino city streets are now under neighborhood watch?
I cannot answer that, partially because the Neighborhood Watch program does not have required participation. So I could probably request a map that shows where the signs have been put up. But the nature of Cupertino is that we have really involved people who are a neighborhood watch captain and they move, or they retire, they have kids, they take on more stuff at work. So, you know, we do have roles. We definitely, you know, when I came in, kind of post-COVID in 2022, there was really low participation because people were not able to connect with their community in the same way. So we are trying to rebuild the program to some extent. But a lot of folks who, I will say the connection with the block leader program is a lot of folks who will start a neighborhood watch group will then want to expand their role and join the neighborhood watch program, or sorry, the block leader program, which is a lot heavier on the community building.
I feel that, this is something potentially from the, from here, basically, we can drive this aspect. So this part is probably ground level to make some difference, right?
So I'm on the receiving end, like we recently, our neighborhood, like few months back, worked with the, to get the neighborhood watch signs, it's recently installed on the Kenton Street. So the minimum participation is 80%. So it took us a couple of months to get the 80% signature in the street.
Yeah, so the petition to install a sign is 80% of a neighborhood. We don't need the 80% to have the presentation to give out the information.
Right.
I do want to make that.
Right. But it's a challenge. So like it took us a while. Few people are not there. So
No, I think, I mean, especially with the sign, I think, yeah, we can change some of these things if it's needed, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
I feel that in my street where I live in, there are 3 streets around that, we have about 70, 80, people in the WhatsApp group. Each one is so well connected and, someone's, driveway is open for half an hour. Definitely notice that, okay, your driveway, you kept it open accidentally. It's like so well connected. I feel that it is really, really, important for the public safety. And even like when something happens in one house, like my home, there's a theft happened and then deputy came, they, got to get the video from my, my neighbors, basically their camera, they were, well cooperative, to show their, I think this is something that potentially 90% of the Cupertino, should be covered under neighborhood watch. Potentially we can, make some real difference, basically, ground level. So is this something we can bring in as a topic here, discuss more? Can real neighborhood watch, we can, make it more adapted and do some.
So that might be under
change.
future agenda setting.
Yeah.
That might be under future agenda setting.
Yeah, similarly, block leader also, I think these 2 program, I think we should, because both of this program. For fire prevention, the message that you're not able to write through, I think the through block leader really connected, they can drive through, they can make the difference, right? Hardscaping, this thing, sharing the knowledge, I think it should be part of, this step.
Yeah,
Both of these.
Yeah, why don't we put that as a future agenda? item?
Future agenda, block leader program adoption.
Yeah, when we get to future agenda setting.
Okay.
Okay.
First, I'm already heard the question.
That's
fun. All right, if I could get a motion to accept the report. All right,
Second.
all right, and how do you vote?
Yes.
So future agenda setting, it sounds like we want to talk more about the block leader program.
Block leader and the neighborhood watch both, I think, how we can make it more, impactful and adopted. I mean, ideally, our target should be 90% of the, part of this program. And
I do agree. I will say one limitation is the program is just me.
No, that's okay, we can,
So
we can,
I
we can
do
be
want-
creative, we can be creative, right? We can give high school students credit, I mean, there can be many, many ideas.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be, you only do this thing, right?
Yeah, I just do want to make
take us. I think, this might be a foreign concept from some of the commissioners. What do we do with the block leader and what do we do with the neighborhood watch?
Yeah.
I think it's this first step to the future agenda item. Martha, why don't you bring back what we currently do? And what is the registration process like? What is our involvement? And then the commissioners can provide ideas how to make it more impactful.
Yes.
So I think having some background information is your first step. Right, so then
Yeah,
we can
makes sense.
see what is going on. And just to kind of add to it, this was also a city work program. Council is heavily interested. Not anymore. So on the current city work program, council moved on with other projects. So if you would like additional support, city council members are also your good allies. Right, so start talking to them, hey, we really do see, because at the end of the day, I'll just be frank, I need money, right? I need funding, I need staffing for a more comprehensive. So if we're coming to council, hey, I need to get Marta help. They're looking at me because we just need help. But if it comes from you, that's a different message. But I think for the future agenda item, why don't we start with what is she doing? What is the program as
Yes,
well?
of course.
Then we can go from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like metrics, the data.
Understand, yeah, first to understand what we have here and how it works, where it is,
Yeah.
and then improvement we can talk,
Yes.
of course.
So we can still add it to the agenda?
Yeah, block,
So-
a block program as well as the level. Both of these are very related.
Right.
Anything else to add to the future agenda item?
Yeah, I have a couple, so I was thinking like, we discussed, in this meeting, right? I think it's very important, like many of the Cupertino residents feel it's becoming unsafe, right? I think it's very important to find the, peak crime hours and, have additional sheriff deputies dispatched, like a pilot program or something. So I would like, to have a future agenda item, allocate funding
Oh,
for
what
it.
does it take to get that? Because they don't have, I mean, it's already, it has to be going to the work program, the city work program before they can do anything about it. So we have to first figure out what it takes to put it onto the work program.
But we need to know, let's say it's cost us 50K to run 3 months
Yes.
for like 2 deputies, these hours.
Exactly. So-
Can we come up with that
That's
assessment?
right. That's the information. We need the information to figure out how to get it there.
And the information about when we have,
Peak hours.
thank you.
Mhm.
That data, I believe, is on the crime dashboard on the city of Cupertino website.
But the solution as, right?
Yeah, to bring it to focus. I mean, there's a lot of information on the city website if people would go there and see. But I think if you bring it out as a specific item that we're going to be focusing on, that gives, more credibility to that, and then people will start looking at these type of things.
I will mention that our chair is going to the mayor's meeting, and so it's maybe something that you would want to speak with the mayor about.
Sure.
That is an option. Don't believe things are being added to the city work program at this time. But potentially a future one.
I already have a very full list.
So can we add it as an agenda to at least discuss in the next meeting and come up with an assessment, like at least we as like public safety, I mean, this forum that we brainstorm and come up with some recommendation to the city council.
Yes.
Okay, so how does it work? I have to send an email to you for the future agenda or?
I think
So you have some agenda items.
This is being recorded, so I'll just take it from the recording.
Oh, so you
and-
will be,
yeah.
thing that I will be sending to us.
so you'll see the next agenda.
I have one more topic. So we got a great report about this fire hazard zones, and I seen this map previously. I was looking at from my house perspective, right? But from the city point of view, like how do we, is there a data on the website about how many sensors, how many cameras are there to alert us quickly about any fire hazard happening in that area?
Wait, ALPR and the fire map together is on here, so.
No.
Like
Alert.
fire.
Fire.
So
Fire sensor alerts.
Oh, fire, so this is out.
let me I can actually,
I think it's on the city website, and I believe you can actually see some of the cameras live from the city website.
yeah, so let me actually pull that up now
Yeah.
without,
I think that information is already out there.
having my password up.
But Martha, we can always provide information back to the commission. We don't have to do it right now.
Yes, I mean, it's already late. We don't want.
So I'll make a note to include that
Yes, please.
in the minutes then.
One last question I have is like there was this like the Eagle project, right? Scouts Eagle project about public safety fair.
Mhm.
So I don't know how much is city involvement. I understand like there are booths and all. I don't have all the information, but are we distributing any flyers or awareness that says, okay, for example, I think in San Jose, I personally seen in San Jose or Milpitas area where like I was about to get out of the car, I saw signs that says, hide it, lock it, or you're at risk, right? Of leaving any valuables in the car. I mean, that is also one of the problem what Cupertino is facing. So is that kind of campaign is part of the public safety fair? If not, is that something we can do?
Not as part of the public safety fair, unless that's something that the sheriff's office booth will specifically be talking about. We have done campaigns in the past, especially leading up to the holidays of, okay, make sure that if you're getting packages, keep an eye on them, collect them quickly. And I do know you guys have a public.
Usually we work with private property owners, 'cause that's not something that we deal with. That's more of a private property owner will do that, take that themselves. Main Street Cupertino, for example, you might see signs there. You have private security that works there as well too. It's just not something that we don't get involved in public advertisement in public and private property. We let that to the property owners. We work with them and we encourage that, especially after we had a couple of break-ins or something like that. They usually pretty good about doing that themselves.
Right, but the car break-ins, at least perception is that okay, it's in the rise, so is there anything we can do, because the public safety fair is so close, right?
Most of them are occurring in residential areas. I don't think we want to put signs in front of your house saying don't leave valuables in your house. We do a lot of public information with people during neighborhood watch and alerting them that that is a problem, and leaving purses or handbags and stuff like that in your car, even if you're parking in front of your house, it's not a very wise thing to do.
I will also say, as commissioners, that's a message you can promote within your community. So if you have a next door presence, you can, hey, it's next door, next door.
Yep.
You can go and say, hey, these are some basic tips.
If you need some, I can email them to you, all the basic tips.
Oh, that would be great. That way we don't need to construct.
No.
That's all, thank you.
So, Sheriff, your report, the crime statistics report, arrest and all this thing, this will be available in. It's available, right?
Yeah, so I didn't get it in time for the packet, but
That's okay.
that'll be included.
Every mission, every meeting we have, my analyst finishes the report probably about 2 or 3 days before this, just because reports are late, they need to be approved by the supervisor and they just finish our record. So it's always, there's unfortunate part with this is that I usually gave it to Tom or give it to Martha probably the day before, if not the day of sometimes. So
So it will be included in the packet afterwards and made publicly.
it's hard to get the previous month's data, so.
Or one thing in the future, we can, a little bit discuss that how this people can be typically send to all the residents of the party,
It's in the ILI.
Huh?
It's always in the ILI.
Somebody need to subscribe to get that, right?
No, but they send it out to, well, yes.
Right, you have to be interested, and a lot of people doesn't know that there is a service like that, we have to find a way, because people have a perception that, things are not happening or they're not safe, and also bad things are happening, right? So we have to assure that, with reasonable capacity, things are happening, trying to really improve, so we have to find a way to send this data out. I know that, but you can get the commission report meeting if you subscribe to that. So I get some of the reports, but the thing is, not many people know about that, right?
And I
So,
think, Fire Chief, touched on this earlier. I mean, we tried all sorts of means to increase public participation.
yeah, I think,
I can knock on doors, but.
no, we have to find a way. I'm pretty sure we can, if we can go the voter registration, things like that, like every house. I think this is very important, right? I mean, we have to find a way, and we don't have a solution, but we should really think about this.
And then I think to Martha's earlier point, we're really looking at you to be the beacon of our
Yes.
messages.
Yes.
Right, so when you are in the community, you should encourage everyone that you talk to
Yeah,
to sign
of
up for
course.
all sorts of,
Yes,
I mean, we
yeah,
do on
yeah.
our end, but that's what really we need the
Yeah.
commissioners to do that for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from city, I don't know if city has, their email address or, or something like that for every residence or something, if you can blast that,
That is a level of
Confidential
privacy.
information.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or we can send the mail, postal mail, city,
like a paper print,
paper mail.
we don't have money.
and also.
So
I
these are the
don't
problem.
think the sustainability report would be very.
This is the problem I fundamentally will be disagree. $60,000 to, operate a 15 camera can fail and we cannot send a mail. I mean,
Well,
this is.
I am.
I think we have to even look at it a little hard on this. Yes.
One of the observations that I would say that go back to what I said earlier today, is we spend thousands of dollars
Yeah.
to create custom mailers. They are specifically targeted to every single individual citizen with a specific QR code just for them. There's an extraordinary amount of effort and planning in order to connect with people, and we still don't get responses. So I think from a mail piece, I'd be very happy to share some of our experiences.
Yeah.
Because I would say that for a pain point for us, one of the issues that we have as local government or the authorities is that many people aren't in tune or don't pay attention to us.
Yeah.
So with that, as soon as they see us, they shut down. As commissioners and members of the community, for you to engage and do so as a member of community is actually one of the great opportunities that you have. So in that effort for us to help support you,
Yeah,
I think that there are traditional methods of contacting people that I think we've all evolved past.
yes,
And so snail mail is actually one of the most expensive and ineffective ways of communicating with people that I've seen, that at least it doesn't work for us very well. What I'm seeing though is much better response from the QR codes and other types of information. And I think that the time where somebody could argue that I don't want to use one of these is past. So the reality is everyone has one.
right,
If they don't have one, their son, daughter, or neighbor has one for them. So with regard, I would say that to figure out more vectors in order to actually make contact and amplify that with your networks would probably be a much more cost-effective way,
yeah,
where you get much more return on your investment, both for time and effort and actual money.
right.
So that would be my suggestion.
We also have a lot of success going to the community, so we will have a lot of festivals coming up. So normally we'll have a staff sitting booth. Perhaps we can ask the commissioners to come and join us, right? So people, you have a lot of people coming in through. And then so that's also another way. So we used to have a budget booth at Cherry Blossom. People don't want to talk about money, but there's a lot of people coming through. The problem though, I will say, is a lot of people are not residents.
Yeah.
Because the festivals are not for residents only. We tried. I mean, we have a table in front of the library for the housing element. We get 2 people coming by. Yeah, but I know what
No,
you're.
no, I think this is the block leader program and that local program, right? Those are, I think, very, very effective too, right? And as you said, like, you need to go for snail mail, and we can go like push notification, QR code, right? Emergency alert, and through that send links,
I mean, I can say I'm,
this month time statistics. I'm sure that people who are about their, they're scared to, about their crime in their neighborhood. If we send a link, look, this month's, crime statistics of Cupertino via some cell phone push message, that people will be, immediately see it. And I think those lot of effective mechanisms, I think.
Maybe, just maybe, what happened in Pacific Palisades will get people to respond a little bit more. Because suddenly, I mean, fire was never a concern for us in Cupertino. Now everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
And our window of opportunity.
yeah,
We're getting to the end, but I think that if anything, the community here, offers an extraordinary opportunity. The people that live here and the technology, the innovation, the spirit of trying new things. I think this is the right place to try something new.
Yes.
Suggest so. We definitely do rely on it.
well, I was just gonna say, you mentioned, so I'm part of the block leader program, and if you don't already know the people on your block, it's actually quite difficult. Like I've kind of went around door to door when I first started that, and I got a very low response rate, even like knocking on doors and talking to people. So some of the things you're talking about, they're good ideas, but you can reach out to people directly, talk to them. They're just not interested. So I think you have to be okay with some, less than 100% response rate.
Yeah.
It's
So I-
just difficult
yeah.
to get that.
And I think some of these things will be like, let's say in this block, this thing happens effectively, other block will know. I think people are a little bit, may not be very, very comfortable to, mix and mingle. A lot of people may not be, but I think it will take effort, sure enough.
I think library is a good place if we need to push any information, right? Like putting a poster. I mean, it will be very cost effective.
And also from the school, like, go to the elementary school and, from there, the flyer, school flyer or the parents their email list. We can be creative in thinking of those things.
Should be back to say.
Ready to adjourn?
It's
not you.
It's not me.
It's 8:33.